When the warning indicator on that John Deere combine flashed crimson one final time, I couldn't have predicted it would drag me into a mystery vast enough to incinerate everything I'd built. I'm Leland Vossler, pushing 38, a mechanical savant who maintains the agricultural machinery here in Boone County, Indiana. I service everything from tractors to harvesters, any piece of equipment with mechanical vitality, earning myself the local nickname, the Machine Whisperer. Life was simple and predictable, at least until that fateful evening when I pulled up to my house. The day had been spent battling old Tully's temperamental harvester, the kind of work that leaves engine oil embedded in your palms and your spine begging for relief. The setting sun cast golden rays across the corn stalks as I steered my weathered Chevy onto the limestone drive, leading to my modest farmhouse. That's when I noticed it. A massive Dodge Ram, coated in dried mud and looking menacing, had claimed my parking space, its imposing presence blocking access to my garage. My grip tightened instinctively on the steering wheel. Visitors were rare in these parts, and Maris, my better half, hadn't mentioned expecting company. I switched off my truck, its familiar rumble giving way to evening insects chorus, and climbed out, my work boots meeting the gravel with a crunch. The evening air carried the scent of freshly cut hay and engine fumes, but something else caught my attention, rhythmic vibrations cutting through the twilight. Heavy rock music, aggressive and unrestrained, emanating from within my home. My home. Maris never listened to rock. She preferred gentle country melodies about heartbreak and rustic living. My heartbeat accelerated, an internal alarm bell starting to ring. I studied the Dodge once more. Its rear gate was heavily scarred, bearing a worn decal that read Road Dog in aggressive font. The owner's arrogant parking job, as if they belonged here, made my teeth grind. I retrieved my toolbox from my truck bed, hoisting it on my shoulder, its familiar weight steadying my nerves as I approached the porch. The music grew more intense with each step, electric guitars howling through the mesh door, and then I heard it, a chuckle, deep and coarse like stones beneath wheels. Definitely not Maris's laugh. A man's. My fingers froze on the doorknob. The lock hung loose, unlatched, and swinging when I tested it. And that's when the atmosphere shifted. A pungent wave of stale beer and cigarette smoke assaulted my senses, overpowering the familiar aroma of Maris's signature lavender candles. I crossed the threshold, wincing at the floorboards' protest beneath my feet, my gaze immediately drawn to the living room. Though the lamp stood dark, a faint illumination seeped from the kitchen at the hall's end, casting two intertwined shadows against the wall, moving together with brazen disregard for potential observers. Before we plunge deeper into this unsettling narrative, I'd like to pose a quick question. Where are you tuning in from tonight? Share your location in the comments section below. I'm genuinely curious to know who's joining me on this journey. If you're already intrigued by this tale, remember to subscribe to ensure you don't miss any upcoming installments. You'll want to stay tuned for what follows. I advanced another step, measured and cautious, my toolbox gently rattling against my side. That laugh echoed again, more distinct now, accompanied by a voice, thick with intoxication, mumbling indecipherable words. My hand instinctively drifted to my Carhartt jacket pocket, where I kept my compact screwdriver, its tip-honed razor sharp for extracting stubborn bolts. Though I didn't grasp it yet, my fingers remained poised, anticipating. The shadows danced once more, and there it was, a metallic glint in the dim light. My IPA, the one I'd reserved for weekend football, now mockingly brandished in some stranger's grasp like a conquered prize. My mouth turned to sandpaper. My pulse thundered above the music's din, steady but intense, like an overworked engine approaching critical failure. Whatever awaited me beyond that corner wasn't friendly company. This was danger, the silent kind that strikes with devastating force. And I was walking straight toward it. I remained rooted in the hallway, my skull vibrating with the heavy bass of rock music, the toolbox still slung across my shoulder like a security blanket I couldn't relinquish. Something felt off about the air, thick with that nauseating cocktail of beer and smoke, and my boots caught slightly on the hardwood, suggesting spilled liquids left unattended. I inched forward, each movement calculated and precise, my attention fixed on the kitchen's flickering glow. The wall shadows continued their twisted choreography, two forms entwined in an intimate display I refused to acknowledge, while that laugh rolled out once more, deep and unhurried, as if claiming this space more rightfully than I. I turned the corner, and reality splintered. There sat Maris, my wife of 5 years, casually perched on our kitchen counter, her copper hair cascading untamed over her shoulders. She had company. A hulking figure dominated the space by our sink, one meaty hand planted on the counter beside her, the other wrapped around my craft beer, amber liquid swirling as he tilted it back. His weathered leather jacket groaned with each movement, the kind that spoke of endless highways and midnight adventures, while his mud-encrusted boots left dirty trails across my clean floor. Maris swayed one leg carelessly, her naked foot grazing his denim-clad thigh, releasing a high-pitched laugh that pierced my soul like shattered glass. The toolbox slipped from my grip, crashing to the floor with a resonating bang that snapped their heads around. The stranger's eyes, bloodshot and dark as oil, found mine, and his face split into a predatory grin, revealing teeth stained by years of vices. Maris remained unfazed, merely cocking her head so the fluorescent light caught her brown eyes, wearing a knowing smirk like she was privy to some cosmic joke at my expense. "Hey, Leland," she purred, her voice dripping with unfamiliar mockery. "Caught you off guard, didn't we? Thought you'd be wrapped up in the Tully project till later." The stranger rumbled a laugh, helped himself to another generous swig of my beer, and dragged his hand across his mouth. "Timing's everything, ain't it?" he drawled, his voice thick with satisfaction. "Sometimes you just gotta grab what's available." My fingers curled into tight fists, nails carving crescents into my palms, but I maintained my position. "Who's your friend, Maris?" I managed, keeping my voice level despite the vice grip tightening around my chest. The kitchen air was heavy with her signature cheap vanilla fragrance, now intermingled with his raw musk of sweat and stale tobacco, a nauseating testament to their prolonged proximity. She slid off the counter, her denim shorts riding dangerously high, and gravitated toward him with practiced familiarity, molding herself against his side. "Meet Hoyt," she announced, her hand splayed possessively across his chest. "Hoyt Drennan. He's been filling in while you're off, playing mechanic." Hoyt raised my bottle in a mocking toast before draining it dry, the empty glass meeting the counter with a hollow ring. "They call me Road Dog," he announced, his grin widening to predatory proportions. "Looks like Farmer Boy here can't keep his woman happy." My teeth ground together so hard I feared they'd shatter. "That's my beer," I growled, the words escaping before I could contain them, each syllable laced with venom. "That six-pack was special, purchased last month from that craft brewery in Lafayette, carefully saved for the Colts game I never managed to watch." It wasn't just about the beer. It represented something more, a small slice of normalcy in my chaotic existence. And here he was, downing it like he owned the place. Maris released a glacial laugh. "Come on, Leland, don't be such a miser," she taunted, folding her arms across her chest. "Hoyt's been working the roads all week. He earned himself a proper welcome." I advanced forward, the ancient floorboards protesting beneath my weight, my shadow stretching ominously across the deteriorating wallpaper. The kitchen seemed to constrict around me, and then I spotted it, a second empty bottle gleaming in the sink, its label marred by damp fingerprints. 2 bottles. They consumed 2. My pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out the background music, and that's when I noticed it, a telltale smear of cherry red lipstick on Hoyt's collar, Maris's signature shade. "What exactly is happening here?" I demanded, my voice rising, slicing through the tension like a heated blade through corroded metal. Maris remained silent, her smirk growing more pronounced, while Hoyt rose to his full height, cracking his knuckles with an echo that bounced off the kitchen cabinets. He towered over me, his 6-foot-plus frame dwarfing my 6'1", his massive presence filling the space like an approaching thunderstorm. "What'd it look like, gear boy?" He sneered, stepping toward me, his muddy boots defiling my floor. "Your woman's trading up. Maybe you should stick to your tractor repairs and leave the real men's work to me." My hand instinctively moved toward my pocket, where my screwdriver rested, its sharpened edge pressing against my leg. I didn't draw it yet, but its presence anchored me, a cold comfort amid the chaos. The atmosphere crackled with something sinister, something unnamed, and one thing became crystal clear. This wasn't some random encounter disrupting my evening. This was a carefully laid trap, and I'd walked right into it. The kitchen air hung heavy, a suffocating blend of artificial vanilla, stale tobacco, and my own acrid perspiration. Hoyt stood there, his chest inflated like a peacock on display, his filthy work boots defiling my meticulously maintained floor. Maris reclined against him, her mouth twisted into a cruel smirk that seemed to slice through the dim lighting, and I felt the walls closing in, as if the very room was bearing witness to this confrontation. My fingers twitched near my pocket, the screwdriver's cold metal pressing reassuringly against my thigh, but I maintained my composure. This moment demanded answers, not violence. "Explain yourself, Maris," I commanded, my voice deliberately calm and measured, slicing through the lingering echo of Hoyt's intimidating knuckle crack. "Why is he here, acting like he owns this place?" She peeled herself away from Hoyt, her bare feet making soft, deliberate sounds against the linoleum as she approached, maintaining a calculated distance. Her eyes gleamed dangerously, like sunlight reflecting off a freshly honed blade. "Oh, poor Leland," she crooned, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy. "You've been so preoccupied with your broken-down machines, you missed the signs. Hoyt's taking over. Starting tonight. Pack your precious tools and relocate to the shed. That's where you truly belong, isn't it? Buried in grease rather than sharing my bed." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. The shed, my sanctuary where countless nights were spent reviving dead machinery, where I'd crafted a workbench from salvaged oak, where my cherished Marine Corps cap hung proudly by the entrance. It wasn't just a workshop. It represented everything I'd earned, paid for with calloused hands and hard-saved money to maintain this home. My property, my existence. And she was dismissing it all like worthless scrap. "You can't be serious," I said, an incredulous laugh escaping unbidden. "This house is mine, Maris. I purchased every single piece of it. Every roof tile, every metal fastener, every drop of sweat equity. You can't rewrite that history." She rolled her eyes dramatically, flipping her hair back, the red strands flashing like emergency signals in the light. "Yours?" she hissed, edging closer, her breath tainted with cheap beer. "You're nothing but a mechanic, Leland, a nobody reeking of diesel and failed dreams. I'm done pretending. Hoyt lives free, hauling cargo across America. He's not trapped in some rural wasteland like you." Hoyt lurched forward, his massive frame eclipsing my presence, and planted his beefy palm on her shoulder. "That's right," he rumbled, his voice resonating through the space like distant thunder. "I'm running things now, wrenchman. You can fetch my morning brew, maybe detail my truck while I'm getting cozy in what used to be your bedroom." He delivered a calculated wink, his mouth twisting into a contemptuous grin that churned my insides. His eyes told the whole story. Here was someone who'd crush anything in his path and find amusement in the aftermath. My hand twitched toward the tool in my pocket, but I maintained control, measuring each moment, letting the anger simmer beneath my surface. The kitchen counter stretched behind them, scattered with remnants of their intrusion, breadcrumbs and an open bag of chips I hadn't purchased, evidence they'd already claimed my space as their own. "And if I refuse?" I challenged, my tone descending to dangerous depths, each syllable as precise as a calibrated gauge. "You think I'll just surrender everything I've built?" Maris's expression grew more smug as she melted back against Hoyt, using him as her personal fortress. "Choice isn't part of this equation," she declared, her words as biting as a midwinter gale off Lake Michigan. "Fight this, and Cal steps in." Remember, my brother's the law in these parts. One word from me, and he'll drag you away for trespassing on your own property. He'll ensure every farmer within 50 miles knows you're finished. Say goodbye to your reputation, your clients, your precious gear whisperer status. You'll be reduced to peddling scrap at weekend markets. Cal, her sibling, the lawman with a tin star and a reputation for creative interpretation of justice. I'd observed him at family gatherings, lean and military cut, with a grip that held too tight and eyes that tracked me like I was vermin in his jurisdiction. True, he'd guaranteed the mortgage on this place, but I'd honored every payment myself, down to the last penny. Now she wielded his authority like a weapon, and the implications weighed on me like lead. The name's Leland, I corrected, meeting Hoyt's gaze with unwavering intensity. And you've got nerve talking about respect while you're raiding my pantry and draining my fridge in my own kitchen. Hoyt erupted in laughter, a harsh sound that ricocheted off the kitchen cabinets, and advanced another step, his imposing presence forcing me against the wall. Respect's something you earn, grease monkey, he sneered, his neck cracking ominously in the tense silence. And your credits running mighty low. That Dodge sitting pretty outside, worth more than this whole sorry excuse of a place. Face facts, you're outgunned. Best crawl back to your workshop while you still can. I remained motionless, feeling the screwdriver's metallic chill against my leg through my jeans. The kitchen crackled with unspoken threats, the refrigerator's steady drone pulsing in my ears like a timer counting down. Maris observed me with calculated interest, her expression daring me to make a move, while Hoyt towered over me, his breath reeking of my stolen beer. They assumed they had me trapped, expected me to crumble under Cal's influence and Hoyt's brute force. But they'd miscalculated badly. I'd weathered worse storms than this, and I wouldn't let some drifter and my turncoat wife rewrite my life's narrative, not without showing them what I was made of. The kitchen air grew thick with tension, Hoyt's massive frame casting a shadow over me, his breath bitter with stolen IPA and ill intent. Maris maintained her distance, arms folded, wearing that knowing smirk while the fridge hummed ominously. My shoulders pressed against the wall's peeling paint, rough through my jacket, as my hand hovered near my thigh, close to the tool. His words echoed in my mind, outgunned, like I was some piece of salvage he could simply claim. You talk big for a drifter, I said, my voice eerily steady, like the deceptive calm before a devastating storm. That's your first mistake. Hoyt's expression morphed from contempt to rage as he struck, moving with surprising agility for his size. His meaty hands seized my jacket, fingers twisting the material as he lifted me clear off the ground. My feet swung uselessly as he slammed me against the wall, rattling dishes in their cupboards. Pain shot through my body, fierce and sharp, but I held his gaze, staring into those bloodshot eyes that gleamed with premature victory. Time for a lesson in manners, farm boy, he snarled, spittle landing on my face. Then I'm taking everything, your house, your woman, might even let you watch if you survive. Hoyt, don't you dare kill him, Maris interjected, her voice cutting through the chaos, sharp but wavering, suggesting this wasn't part of her grand plan. Just make sure he understands who's in charge. I hung suspended, my jacket creaking under his iron grip, my arms beating uselessly against his broad chest. His laughter erupted, a guttural, repulsive sound, as he swung me like a pendulum, preparing to hurl me across the room like discarded trash. But fate intervened when his boot encountered a treacherous patch of linoleum, slick with spilled beer from earlier, causing his stance to falter momentarily. That fleeting instant was all I needed. My fingers found their way to my pocket, wrapping around the familiar handle of the screwdriver. With practiced precision, I freed it in one fluid motion, its sharpened point catching the harsh kitchen light, and thrust it upward with surgical accuracy, finding the soft spot beneath his ribs. 3 swift strikes, each as precise as a mechanic's touch, penetrated his flesh. Hoyt's breath caught in his throat, transforming into a wet, choking sound as his grip weakened. I landed gracefully while he stumbled backward, clutching desperately at his side. His massive frame crumpled, collapsing onto the floor like a demolished building, crimson stains blooming across his shirt like dark roses. Hoyt! Maris's scream shattered the air like breaking glass. She lunged forward, dropping beside him, her trembling hands clutching his jacket. "Get up, you stupid ox, get up!" A wet, gurgling groan escaped his lips as he rolled sideways, his face now slack and expressionless, vacant eyes fixed on the ceiling fan's lazy rotation above. Blood spread beneath him like spilled oil, seeping into the linoleum's crevices. I knelt down, methodically rolling him onto his back to inspect my handiwork. 3 perfect punctures, strategically placed near his lungs, already turning his breathing shallow and ineffective. "You won't be getting up," I stated matter-of-factly, rising while wiping the screwdriver clean on my jeans before folding it away with a subtle click. "He slipped on your mess, true enough, but that's not what sealed his fate. The right tool, properly applied, stops any engine cold. Keeps things neater that way." Maris scrambled backward, her knees scraping against the floor until she hit the counter, chest heaving with panicked breaths. Her shorts rode up as her legs splayed awkwardly, and her eyes, wide as full moons, remained fixed on me. "You've killed him," she whispered, her voice cracking like a damaged timing belt, barely audible over the refrigerator's constant hum. "You're completely insane, Leland. What kind of monster are you?" I moved closer, my boots leaving faint crimson trails, and bent down to meet her gaze, hands resting on my knees. "I'm a fixer, Maris," I explained as calmly as discussing a routine repair. "Machines mostly, but messes too. You brought this problem to my door, thinking I'd roll over. Bad calculation." Her mascara-stained face contorted as tears streamed down her cheeks, her trembling hands desperately grasping the counter's edge for stability. "I'm next on your list, aren't I?" she choked out between ragged breaths, terror transforming her familiar features into an unrecognizable mask. A subtle smirk played across my lips as I shook my head. "That wasn't the blueprint, darling. But you've rewritten the manual yourself, haven't you?" I straightened, casting a glance at Hoyt's lifeless form before returning my gaze to her. "That craft IPA you both downed? Custom blend. Been aging in the fridge, spiked with a special ingredient. Rat poison, odorless, gradual but effective. Should have chosen water instead." Her fingers shot to her neck, a strangled sound escaping her lips, and I watched realization dawn in her eyes as her limbs grew rigid, her fingers contorting inward. Silence filled the space, broken only by blood droplets hitting the floor and her labored breathing. She believed she was in control, but my strategy had been more calculated, and now the odds were shifting. The kitchen remained motionless, transformed into a killing floor illuminated by the refrigerator's steady drone and the subtle protest of settling wood. Hoyt lay motionless on the floor, his spilled blood creating a dark pool that caught the ceiling light, while Maris sagged against the countertop, her crimson locks stuck to her perspiring face. Her fingers scraped desperately at her throat, fingernails leaving marks as the poison worked its way deeper, her breathing becoming shallow, irregular, like a failing machine ready to give out. Her gaze, frantic and unfocused, found mine, silently begging for clemency I had no intention to grant. I lowered myself closer, near enough to sense her diminishing warmth, and cocked my head, examining her as I would a damaged piece of machinery. "You're no farmer," she wheezed, each syllable a battle, her voice cracking under mounting fear. "You're a demon." "Not exactly, Maris," I replied, my voice steady, almost soothing, like explaining mechanical specs to an apprentice. "I'm a problem solver, as I mentioned before. Machinery is my specialty, but I handle other issues too. People employ me when they need things to vanish quietly and efficiently. You weren't initially the mark, though. Not until you tried this foolish move." Her mouth opened, releasing a feeble cry as she slid further down, scraping against the cabinet. "What do you mean?" she gasped, her head swaying, the toxin's grip strengthening. I moved closer, catching the scent of the IPA on her breath, the same beer I'd carefully prepared months ago and hidden in the refrigerator, a contingency plan I'd hoped would stay unused. "Your brother Cal, I said, noting how she winced at his name, a reaction that revealed her remaining resilience. He's been quite busy, sweetheart. Sheriff during daylight hours, sure, but after dark? Operating a profitable operation, smuggling modified corn seed across Ohio's border. Supplying those research facilities up in Michigan, collecting untaxed profits. The FBI wasn't pleased, especially after he started paying off deputies to stay silent. Thing is, he had too many connections in powerful positions, too many armed allies. Couldn't just arrest him openly, not without sparking unwanted conflict. Her gaze darted to Hoyt's lifeless form, then back to me, terror spreading across her features like frost on a winter morning. You manipulated me, she breathed, her words splintering like brittle branches. The marriage was just your path to him. Got it in one, I replied, snapping my fingers softly, a ghost of a smile playing on my face. You were my ticket inside, Maris. 5 years I spent playing the role, fixing farm equipment during daylight hours while tracking Cal's movements after dark, learning his patterns, his transactions, his buried secrets. This morning, I settled the score. Found him alone in that weathered tobacco barn along Route 52, counting his latest earnings. Left him propped against a hay bale, chest pierced by a round from the silenced 9mm I keep hidden in my workshop. I plan to vanish from Boone County by first light, letting you claim whatever the feds left in my accounts as a parting gift. But you had to bring Road Dogg into the equation, didn't you? She shook her head desperately, tears cutting paths through the grime on her face, hair clinging to her damp cheeks. I had no idea, she choked out, her trembling hands reaching toward me, but falling short. Leland, I swear it. Save your breath. I interrupted, rising to my feet, my shadow draping over her like a funeral veil. I knew about your trucker liaisons long before I slipped that ring on your finger, caught wind of your infidelities before I even approached you. Didn't matter to me. Your moral choices, your broken vows, that was your burden to bear. Love wasn't part of my mission, never was. This marriage was just business, and come tomorrow it'll be nothing but paperwork. Her hands fell limp in her lap as a low moan escaped her lips, the poison seizing her joints, her legs jerking uselessly. The beer, she gasped, her voice barely audible, understanding hitting her like a jackknife at semi. You poisoned it. That's right, I confirmed, glancing at the empty bottles on the counter, beaded with moisture. Said it was special, remember? Mixed in a little insurance policy months ago, just in case. You and Hoyt drank it down like thirsty barflies. Bad decision. Please, she whimpered, fingers clenching, body convulsing as death approached. Leland, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any of it. I exhaled heavily into the quiet room and lowered myself beside her on the floor, feeling the cold linoleum seep through my denim. Her body slumped against my shoulder, her weight pressing into me, and I felt an unexpected stab of emotion pierce through my hardened exterior. I'm sorry, too, I whispered, the words genuine despite everything, as I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. This could have ended differently. The money, the property, a fresh start. It was all yours for the taking. But you crossed the line, Maris, and now I've got 2 bodies to deal with. She tried to speak, her voice too weak to hear, her lips barely moving. I held her closer, feeling her warmth fade away, her breathing growing shallow against my neck until it ceased altogether. I remained there longer than I should have, watching the blood patterns on the floor, the silence crushing me from all sides. Finally, I propped her against the cabinet, her vacant eyes half open, staring into emptiness. Retrieving my phone, I sent a brief message to my contact. Done. That's all it took, the signal for my payment to process. Then I called Lydia, my actual wife, her Midwestern accent greeting me after 3 rings. Hey, sweetie, she chirped, her voice warm as summer sunshine through barn slats. All wrapped up there? Yeah, honey, I replied, my tones softening naturally, a smile forming despite the scene surrounding me. Everything's finished. Coming home tomorrow. Give the little ones a squeeze for me. Been missing you all like crazy. Better hurry back, Theo Carver, she said playfully, her laughter soothing my conscience. Love you. Love you too, I responded before ending the call, the smile fading as I pocketed the phone. Pau Gava, not Leland Vossler. That identity was finished now, along with this chapter. But tonight wasn't over yet. The kitchen had become a mausoleum, broken only by Hoyt's blood slowly spreading across the floor and the refrigerator's steady drone, a silent observer to tonight's violence. Maris remained slumped by the cabinet, her head twisted unnaturally, her copper hair spread like spilled wine across the wooden surface. Her empty gaze fixed on the ceiling. The poison's work complete, while Hoyt lay sprawled nearby, his jacket darkened with blood, a fallen player in a deadly game he never comprehended. I stood over them, hands resting on my hips, my jeans stained with dirt and blood, feeling the night's burden settle into my bones like corrosion on aged metal. I flexed my fingers methodically, feeling each joint crack under pressure, and released a measured breath, the kind that marks the end of a well-executed job. My phone vibrated silently, a wordless signal from my handler confirming the inevitable. Soon, a substantial federal payment would land in my account, compensation for erasing another shadow. Cal had vanished, Maris and Hoyt were unfortunate casualties, and I was preparing to dissolve into the night air of Boone County. But first, the evidence needed to disappear. Carefully stepping over Hoyt's lifeless form, avoiding the crimson pool surrounding him, I made my way toward the back shed. The screen door creaked open, releasing me into the night where the air carried hints of wet soil and distant burning wood. The old shed stood before me, its aged planks gleaming silver in the moonlight, and I illuminated the space with its lone bulb, harsh light cascading over my workspace. Reaching up, I retrieved 2-gallon containers from the highest shelf, industrial-strength acid, typically used for removing rust from old machinery parts. It was potent enough to dissolve human remains given sufficient time, a fact I'd verified on previous occasions. Returning to the kitchen, I set down the containers with a hollow thump, the liquid inside shifting ominously as I unsealed one jug. Acrid fumes assaulted my nostrils, cutting through the metallic scent of blood, and I began with Hoyt, methodically pouring the corrosive liquid from his feet upward, watching it eat through his clothing with a sinister hiss. His body jerked once, posthumously, before settling as the acid began its work. Moving to Maris, I poured the caustic solution over her lower half, the liquid gathering around her legs like a twisted christening. I deliberately avoided her face, unwilling to watch those eyes disappear. She'd been a misguided player in this game, earning my pity rather than hatred. The floor had become a toxic soup of blood and acid, prompting me to retrieve a well-worn mop from the pantry. Working swiftly, I scrubbed the linoleum until every stain faded into obscurity, the mop's rhythmic motion breaking through the night's silence. I cleaned the counter next, eliminating every trace of their final moments. With calculated movements, I transported Hoyt's body to the bathtub, muscles straining under his weight, before returning for Maris, her smaller frame no less burdensome in death. By sunrise, the acid would reduce them both to unidentifiable sludge. I lingered at the kitchen entrance, empty containers in hand, the caustic vapors hanging heavy in the air, when my phone's sudden ring pierced the stillness. After wiping my chemical-stained hands on my denim, I answered. Lydia's voice flowed through, reminiscent of lazy summer evenings on the porch. "Honey, you sound exhausted," she said, her Midwestern accent laced with worry. "Everything all right?" "Just finishing up," I replied, resting against the wall, my gaze fixed on the distant bathroom. "Got a bit messy, but I'll be home shortly." "How are our little ones?" Energetic as always, she chuckled softly. "Tessa keeps asking when you'll repair her scooter, and Ben's left muddy trails everywhere. Come home soon, okay? Your newest one's quite active today." I smiled, envisioning our modest home in Akron, Tessa's endearing smile with its missing teeth, Ben's dirt-covered shoes, and Lydia, radiant with our third child. "Heading back now?" I assured her. "No more extended jobs, I swear. Love you." "Love you too, Theo Carver," she responded, her voice both gentle and resolute. Stay safe. Ending the call, my smile faded as I pocketed the phone. Lydia understood the nature of my work, never prying, simply believing in my safe return. She was my foundation, genuine and true, unlike Maris, who'd been merely circumstantial. Returning to work, I ignited the acid-soaked mop in the yard's fire pit, watching it burn. The truck would follow, destined for an abandoned quarry where it would raise no suspicions. But fate had other plans. 2 days after returning to Akron, federal agents contacted me. A surveillance oversight, an overlooked detail, and Cal's deputy investigating around Boone County. My identity was compromised, the contract terminated, the payment frozen. More devastating still, Lydia discovered everything through an anonymous file delivered to our doorstep. She remained silent, shed no tears, just gathered the children and retreated to her mother's, leaving behind her final words. It's over, Theo. The deception ends here. Divorce documentation arrived shortly after, leaving our house eerily silent, more desolate than that fatal shed. Deception extracts its toll. Maris forfeited her existence, Hoyt his lifeblood, and I sacrificed what truly mattered, believing I could escape reality. The message remains stark yet clear. Never dismiss the unassuming, and don't let avarice obscure what's genuine. One way or another, it claims everything. And so concludes this dark tale of consequences. Was the ending what you anticipated, or did it leave you stunned? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this journey through deception and redemption resonated with you, remember to like and follow for more gripping narratives. Thank you for joining me, and until our paths cross again.